So let's recall what happened last episode. Genshiken is a show about people you already know doing things you probably already do, and can get a little too close to home for some people depending on your taste and how much anime porn you browse on a daily basis. At the end of the first season, Madarame, Kugiyama, and Tanaka are set to graduate soon, and this leaves Sasahara in charge of the club, of which two new members, Kuchiki and Ogyue, have also joined up. Oh right, there was an OVA in there too. So to be quick and snappy about the OVA, it's just more of the same. Ogyue and Kuchiki get their more full and proper intros here. Basically what we're looking at is a more well-rounded cast, because now we have a proper Fujoshi in the mix. Well, you can't deny that Ono is definitely a lady otaku. The focus on her character is primarily one of the cosplay variety, and it never really felt like she was the pervy variety. We see characters more of this ilk in modern anime more than Genshiken, which makes it a weird time capsule of the male-oriented otaku world. Ogyue, for all she claims to hate otaku and otaku culture, is very much up to her paintbrushy little head in it, though. How do I best describe Kuchiki? Well, there used to be a Facebook page called I Like Anime, but I Don't Act Like a... He's the reason that page exists. He's basically someone who never got his ass kicked enough in high school to knock the moron out of him. He's loud, he's unfunny, and he's mostly there to make you want to throttle him. Kind of like some people I've worked with. Sadly, most of the attempts to make him seem sympathetic fall flat because he's absolutely awful in all cases. The less we talk about him, the better. Anyway, they get their proper intros in the first OVAs, so when they show up in Genshiken II, they just get the Mini-Moose treatment.
Oh, that's Mini-Moose, my other sidekick. Yep, been with me the whole time.
That being the case, these OVAs are pretty much what you'd expect out of 2 extra episodes of Genshiken, in that they're, well, 2 extra episodes of Genshiken. If you had any love for the show at all, you probably already got your mitts on them. It should also be known that these 2 episodes were pack-ins with the Kujibiki Unbalanced TV show that had come out, which actually somehow took the generic and stupid show within a show and made it a more generic-looking show outside of a show. They desaturated the colors and stripped it of all the interesting character designs, and now it looks like just another anime from that time. Which is kind of impressive in its sheer blandness. That takes skill, I must say. Of course, I didn't bother to look into it because I got better shit to watch, but the point stands that from a design perspective, I can only describe it as mauled. So here's the situation. With Madarame out of the picture, that leaves Sasahara, the most nebbish of the nebbish, to run the show. He has some big dreams, though, which is a problem because he's kind of a wiener. And I don't mean just like a little bit. I mean, like, oh my god, this guy is a loser. It seems to be okay by him, though, which is more than a little worrying. More to the point, he wants to whip up a doujinshi with the rest of his club and hopefully get something rolling. This takes up the better part of the series itself, at least as a quote-unquote main plot thread, which is cool, but at the same point, we've seen series that kind of do this already. What those shows don't have is this cast of nutters, though, and that does make a hearty difference. Unfortunately, that is just as much of a hindrance to the series, especially considering they lump primary artwork duties on Kugiyama, who is, to put it delicately, difficult to work with. And of course, he's a prissy little fuck to make it worse. However, when Sasahara finally calls him on it, I get the feeling that the show is trying to push the idea that they're somehow both in the wrong. And let me tell you, no, they're not. Kugiyama is just a shithead. I never much liked the character in the first season, and it only made me hate him all the more. When other people are relying on you to do something, at least make the effort. So here's the thing about Ogyue that may not be readily apparent. She's a big old pervert. She swears she's not into yaoi, but God knows that the minute she catches a whiff of anything even remotely related, her boy love alarms start a-blaring. You know, I can appreciate that this is a good character quirk, and maybe I'm just too deep into otaku culture, but after watching Kiss Him, Not Me, this seems kind of disingenuous. According to her, she got unpleasantly surprised back in the day, and now she hates yaoi. But clearly she's obfuscating, since she rolls harder than a cosplayer at a fabric shop. Her mind turns the club into some overdramatic, hyper-bishy BL fanfic that only someone deliberately parodying it could create. Of course, this does help the club in its weird, stupid way, since she basically has to take over art duties to make sure the book gets printed in time for Comic Fest. The last arc is a weird twist of a few different ideas and concepts. The first plotline follows Sasahara as he finds out just how lame he truly is. And while I think we're supposed to feel bad for him for having basically no applicable skills, I just can't bring myself to. But when the others all move on towards proper jobs, he finds himself left behind. The problem here is that it's not a question of, oh, just give him a chance. It's that he's actually not sufficiently developed both as a character and as a person in the world, ostensibly our world, to get rolling in a career. The other plotline, easily the more entertaining of the two, is Ono's friends from America coming to cause sheer havoc by being Americans. This also is the point where we learn how well this crop of otaku understand English, and to an extent how well the voice actors speak it. Kasukabe has only slightly stilted English, but it's eminently understandable. Ono, on the other hand, well, for someone who spent so much time in America, apparently she didn't learn a goddamn lick of English. But then, on the other hand, the American characters don't really speak it that well either.
Chica, your book is great. Especially when Mukio splashes sperm onto Chihiro's glasses.
Oh, God. Sometimes I wish I didn't understand English myself. Point being, the show introduces dark and light elements pretty extensively, because on the one hand we have Sasahara being a sad sack, and on the other... It's kind of jarring, and while part of me feels sad for Sasahara having such a rough time, the other part of me says, fucking figure it out. It's the same problem I had with the guy from Welcome to the NHK. He's written just so that there's basically no out for him other than to keep failing at things. And that's kind of unfair to the rest of us trying to root for him, because we can already see that he's woefully equipped to even fake it till you make it, which the rest of the club can apparently do. It makes his question about what's wrong with being otaku kind of resonate differently by the end of the series, though it gets less cloudy by the end, because of course it has to. The animation got an update, but it's not really an upgrade, as it only came out a few years after the last one. The characters look like they should, dress and act like they should, and don't really diverge from what you're expecting. There are hookups that should surprise no one, and it's all very quote-unquote wrap-up feeling. This is okay, because for as little as I had to say about Madarame, Tanaka, and Kugiyama initially, they ended up being where the main bulk of the series lay. No pun intended. Eat a salad. However, the driving force of the first season was Kasukabe and her interactions with them, in spite of her not being otaku, or the main character. The driving force of Season 2 is definitely Sasahara, for better or worse, and to an extent Ogyue too, as the newcomer and resident Fujoshi. Life continues in the Genshiken world, but we don't really go much further with it. Until... Yes, that's right. Genshiken 2nd Generation came out, and it's, well, that's another story altogether. So when you get right down to it, the question you should ask yourself about Genshiken is, what is my pain tolerance, and how much do I just want to go to an anime club? If you don't get out a lot, I suppose it's a pretty good little work that those in the know will appreciate. But it also features all the cringe and weirdness that comes with a show of this nature being exceptionally aware of its audience. And honestly, the only question that really makes much of a difference is, did I like the first season? If the answer is yes, then prepare for more of the same. But if it didn't rev your engine, this is not going to make you a believer. So while it was fun to kind of watch what other people write otaku to look like, I think I'd much rather just sit here and be one.